connecting
You're
Zoom
not talking.
through Facebook. We've tried it and it's screwing up. Why is that?
I don't know. You're on live here. On Zoom.
On Zoom, yeah. But what about on Facebook? You want to do separately through Facebook again? So apparently, Zoom offers the capacity of broadcasting through Zoom directly onto my Facebook page. We have 1 million followers on Facebook, so we want to broadcast to Facebook as we are on Instagram right now.
It says you're live on Facebook.
It says we're live. Are we live on Facebook?
I don't know.
I'll tell you what. Look it up. Put it on the thing. Are we live on Facebook? Can someone tell me? Okay. Hi, everybody. So here, what a fascinating subject. My daughter Chana, who's right next to me, chose it. And since I wrote this book, Kosher Adultery, ta-da! It's a very short book. Is adultery kosher? No, that's the whole book. And then that's it. Obviously, that's not it. Is that funny? It was a joke that used to work in live speeches when this book first came out.
Look, it says you're live, but it's not showing anything.
Okay, 1 second. We're testing whether, remember, this is all kind of new. Zoom and amalgamating Zoom and Facebook so that we could have our Facebook audience. Now my daughter's telling me that it's working. Okay, well, wait a second. But how do people from Facebook go to Zoom so they can participate?
I put the Zoom ID.
Oh, okay. So all of you who are on Facebook, we're dealing with why do men cheat, why do women cheat? And all of you have to somehow persuade my daughter Chana, who's right next to me, you only see a part of her, to actually participate with me. She runs Kosher Sex, kosher.sex, but she's not sure she wants to participate. What, you like chickening out on me?
Thank you for bringing that to everyone's attention.
Are you chickening out on me?
If I have something to say, I'll say it.
Well, you run a website, a world-class website for relationships, so you have to have something to say. That's why you run the website.
Okay, why don't you start it and I'll.
Well, you gotta get in the thing. Okay. I gotta fix one more thing here, and that is I'm gonna pull this up a bit so you guys can see us a bit better. Okay. All right. Okay, hi everybody. Let me go to the different views here. Let me see who we got. Firstly, I'll tell you what's so interesting about adultery. Remember, let's deal first. We're gonna deal with a couple of themes tonight. Adultery, why men cheat, why women cheat. One of the reasons men cheat is the broken American male. I'll talk about that. This is maybe my most important book, seriously, for men especially. And then also the Private Adam, another one of my books, which is about heroism, but moral heroism. I'll get to that in a second. Okay, Chana, come to the shot more. I first want to talk about, I want to speak about, so what firstly, why do men cheat? And why is this an important subject now? I said the other day, interesting insight, that in the age of coronavirus, there's like, people can't cheat. How are you going to cheat?
I actually did see some statistics saying that online cheating is
growing?
Spiking, yeah.
Okay, well,
I don't know how you pull that off in your home with
your spouse.
Everyone, but somehow they're doing it. When people want to cheat, they find a way.
Yeah, that's true. But here's the reasons why it's so hard right now, right? Number one.
Can't get a second alone.
Yeah, if you want to do and 60% of affairs are online, but even online cheating is pretty hard right now because you're home the whole time. When your wife says to you, "Who are you texting?" What are you going to say? When your husband says to you, "Who are you talking to?" What are you going to say? Your spouse is always around. First text.
Yeah, but all work is online, so you could just say it's work.
It's so funny when the kids like stick their head in. What are they talking about?
Ideas.
Number two. Yeah, but you know that your spouse can walk in on you. Maybe that just magnifies the excitement because you high stakes, right? Mm-hmm. Number two, you can't have a physical rendezvous right now because I can't imagine that even people who want to cheat or are in an affair, I can't imagine that they want to get sick or make their whole family sick. You know, it used to be that if you had an affair and if you got an STD, you could transmit that to your spouse. So the threat of infection was always there. But it's not a direct threat of like death, God forbid. In the age of AIDS, perhaps, going back to the 1980s before they had all these antiretrovirals. But I can't imagine that anyone's going to cheat now and want to, God forbid, get their spouse sick, their children sick. And it's not even through having sex with your spouse. It's just by coming home with the virus, God forbid. Then the third thing is, what was the third reason that I said that it's almost impossible to have an affair right now? Sexting and texting is hard because you're always home. Rendezvous is impossible. You don't want to get sick. Also, you can't go out because where are you going? What are you going to tell your spouse? You can tell them you're going to work and then, take the day off and meet someone at a hotel room. Well, you're not going to work. So, and yet, as Hannah just said, she read that adultery is spiking. Really? Would you say?
I don't know.
We also read that divorce is spiking.
Yeah.
That divorce has gone through the roof.
It was for one website. It was called it's like the new Ashley Madison or something. Some new website.
I hope the website wasn't called bunchofcrap.com or something like that.
No, it was a legitimate news source.
Yeah, Ashley Madison is like a legitimate news source.
No, I didn't see it on Ashley Madison. I saw it on the news.
Okay.
It's called something, I don't know.
Well, to examine, I don't know the data right now. I really don't. I do know the data usually about infidelity. I don't know the data since the coronavirus started. But let's just look at why it might spike, because that's intimately related to why people cheat in the first place. So let's do first men. You give me your reaction, then we'll take people's questions, then we'll do women. So we're doing men right now. Don't tell me that we're being sexist here, but men have the majority of affairs. So let's look at, people think that men cheat because they want sex. And that's partially true. It's belied, however, by the fact that so many affairs are online. There's no physical contact. Well, you can say that sexting is a form of sex. Perhaps it is, and maybe phone sex is a form of sex. Okay, but still the fact remains that most affairs take place between people who don't even meet. They never even see each other. So it's not just about sex. I say in this book, The Broken American Male, that the vast majority of men, can you guys see that? The vast majority of men cheat for an ego boost. They want to feel desirable. They feel like crap. They feel broken. They feel like losers. And they want someone to make them feel desirable. The obvious question then is, why don't then go to your wife? Your wife will boost your ego. Your wife will tell you you're amazing. Why do you need some woman to make you feel special? Well, there's a whole bunch of reasons. Number one, the man with low self-esteem looks at the woman dumb enough to marry him as being a bigger loser than he is. Anything multiplied by zero in mathematics is zero. So if I see myself as a big nothing, then no matter how special the woman who I married is, I see her, if I'm a zero, she could be 1,000, but 1,000 times zero is zero. I see her as a nothing because she's dumb enough to be allied with a loser like me. I'm old enough to remember this. Hannah probably isn't. But AOL is all but disappeared today. I'm always amazed when people still have AOL addresses. But AOL was once the biggest internet company in the world. It was a dial-up. This is before broadband, and you needed AOL to get online, Hannah.
I remember. So it wasn't that long ago.
Okay, AOL took over Time Warner.
Yeah.
They did a takeover. They took over Time Warner. Time Warner owns CNN, HBO. I could go on. Little dial-up AOL took over Time Warner because at the time they were the biggest internet company around. But then, of course, broadband came around. AOL went down the toilet, and because they were worth nothing, they made Time Warner worth nothing. Time Warner's stock and value went down the toilet, became worth zero. So they split the companies because they didn't want AOL dragging Time Warner down. That's why a lot of men cheat. If I see myself as a nothing, then the poor woman married to me, no matter how beautiful, special, sexy, alive, attractive, brilliant, I look at her as a giant zero because she's dumb enough to be married to me. But the woman who isn't married to me, the stranger, person I work with, a coworker, someone I meet online, someone I meet in a bar, someone I see at a convention. Ooh, she is not allied to failure. So when she tells me, oh, you're so interesting, you're so funny, I am, I'm so funny, it starts boosting the male ego. That's the main reason that men cheat. What say you, Hannah Boteach?
I don't know if it's the main reason. I would say maybe boredom could be a bigger factor, no?
Boredom is a factor.
And I think that's especially why, in this article that I was reading, it said that one of the reasons it's spiking is because people are in quarantine and it's revealing the cracks in their relationship.
Okay.
And they're being around each other so much that they need something to electrify or get them excited.
No, I
definitely agree with what you're saying. I do think that a lot of men, one of the main reasons they cheat is because it stems from insecurity, but
that's the main
reason. They need validation, but I definitely think it also has something to do with boredom.
Okay. Well, I want to hear what people have to say about this, but let me just rebut that a little bit. Of course, boredom is a part of it. Of course, people need thrills, excitement.
I think
adultery gives you something to look forward to, but if people are bored, they can watch more Netflix, and they are. Netflix had 200 trillion new subscriptions that were just reported. well, so many companies are going down the drain, Netflix is growing. But if you're bored, there's other activities. You can go fishing, you can pick up a hobby. I admit that a sexual erotic thrill is much more exciting than golf. Maybe not for all men, by the way, but hopefully. But boredom doesn't explain all of it, because you could have other avenues that can cure boredom. Why are they looking to?
No, they're bored
Sexually.
sexually.
Okay, they're also bored erotically.
Yeah.
Some people say that men cheat because the mistress is prepared to do things with them sexually that their wives won't do. And maybe there's some truth to that. Not because their wife is not sexually adventurous. It's the fact that if a woman feels that her husband's bored of her anyway, doesn't look at her.
Yeah, I don't
when
think
she,
it's the woman. I don't think it's the wife's fault or the girlfriend, the woman's fault. I think that's the difference also that you always talk about with men and women's sexuality, that women's is much deeper, but that it needs to be, it's more all encompassing, but it needs to be brought out.
it has to be.
It has to be kind of not extracted, but they need to feel comfortable enough with a man who gets to know them in that way that they feel comfortable to express themselves like that. And a lot of men don't do that.
Yeah.
So women like some men who say that they're bored of sex with their wives, and then the woman will have an affair, and then all of a sudden they realize there's this whole new side to their wife they didn't even know existed. So
right. I wrote that in Kosher Adultery.
So
I wrote that in Kosher Adultery. When
only
men,
on Kosher.sex, you can't get on Amazon.
that's right.
Something you can't get on Amazon.
You better be able to get on
Make
Amazon
sure.
too.
Not on Amazon.
Well, I wrote in the book that a study was done about men who were having affairs, husbands who were having affairs. And the researchers said to them, okay, so if you're out having an affair with your wife, and that usually leads to the depletion of sex with one's wife, because now you're having sex with your mistress and she is so much more enticing and exciting, so you're not really doing stuff at home. The question then was put to them, what about your wife? Do you think that she's having an affair? If you're having an affair, what do you think that she is? You know what the men, like 90% of men said?
Should never do that.
She's not the type.
She's not the type.
More than she's not even the type. And maybe that's why they're having an affair in the first place, right? She's not the type. That's how they see her.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's some of the reasons that men have affairs. I want to take some of the, Hannah says boredom. I say brokenness. Men are very feeling like losers. And an affair makes them feel valuable, makes them feel cherished, makes them feel desirable. Why can't their wives make them feel that way? Because if you look,
but I do want to say, I don't think that it means that the partner's boring. It means that it's definitely coming from, maybe we're even actually saying the same thing, because I think boredom also can come from a lacking in that person. So maybe, you're right.
No, but there are books that blame the victim. There was I'm not going to say now because I don't want to embarrass the author. I kind of know them, but there was a book that came out a few years ago, maybe 10 years ago. And I remember that the book essentially said that if your husband's having an affair, madam, maybe Mrs. So-and-so, maybe you should look at what you're not providing him. Now that's classic blame the victim. Well, a lot of people believe that. By the way, a lot of wives who are being cheated on, no matter how enraged they are when they find out, they also sometimes point the finger at themselves and say, what didn't I give him? Do you think that's an appropriate response?
Definitely. Listen,
definitely not, you mean.
That's an inappropriate response. What did you say?
I said, do you think it's an appropriate?
I think said an inappropriate. Okay. No. Okay.
So you don't think that's an appropriate response?
No, but I think the thing about cheating that freaks me out the most, and I've never been married, obviously, but I understand that people can maybe mess up and that people are human, and men especially, they can say they can have like a one night thing with someone and it really means nothing. And I believe that sometimes it means nothing, but I think more of the lying is what freaks me out. That someone can cheat on someone and then go about their day and act like nothing happened and then sleep in the same bed with their spouse. And that's what creeps me out about cheating the most. Men are really bad at that, by the way. They can lie for a while, but they become so stupid in their affairs that there's always a giveaway. They'll come home with like another woman's underwear wrapped around their neck accidentally, someone's lipstick all over their face. That's why so many researchers believe that men secretly want to be caught, because they're so stupid in their affairs. I don't think it's that they, subliminally. I never understood that. If you secretly want to be caught, how subconscious can it be that, why don't you just confess? I never understood that. I'm not saying that I agree. Do you think people would rather get cheated on emotionally or physically? That's a good question, but I'd rather the person who wrote it actually say it. How do I know which one of you? That. Oh, you saw it there? No, I just thought of it. It's a very good question. I'm gonna get to that in a second. Someone asked me that a few days ago. Does anyone want to ask a question?
Well, before I get to, hey Ted, I see you. I see a bunch of other people. But before I get, let me respond to Hannah's question. Would people rather be cheated on emotionally or
Would you rather
physically?
your spouse, your girlfriend, whatever, have an affair, an emotional affair or a physical affair?
Okay, so it comes down, the research shows it comes down to gender. Men can usually forgive their wives for having an emotional affair, but if they sleep with a guy, they can almost never forgive them. 2/3 out of all marriages where the wife cheats end in divorce, where she has
What
a
about
physical,
vice
physical
versa?
affair. Vice versa, 2/3 survive. If a husband cheats, 2/3 of the time,
So men are more threatened by
men are more threatened by
affair,
yeah, they maybe feel almost, you could say it's territorial. It could be they see their wife is almost contaminated, or you did something, it's unforgivable. How could you do that to me? Also, it emasculates the guy.
They don't understand how the gravity of an emotional connection with someone. Maybe they don't see that as big as a threat. See what I'm saying?
One of the reasons people say that women who have affairs, 2/3 of the time, the relationship dies, the marriage dies, is for that reason. Women don't just have one night stands. The average woman who has an affair lasts for 3 years. A wife. It's a relationship, because women cheat for a totally different reason. We haven't gotten to that yet. So if you ask me, what do I think? What would people rather be cheated on emotionally or physically? If it's a guy, he'd probably say emotionally, he can forgive that. If it's a woman, she might be able to forgive the sex, but if she thinks her husband fell in love with another woman, very hard to forgive. What do you think?
No, I actually agree with you, because I talked about this topic with a bunch of people, and all the women said they'd rather that the man has a physical affair than an emotional affair, and I was the only one that said I'd rather an emotional affair than a physical affair.
Why? Why would you not forgive a physical affair? Because sex is that intimate? Why? Is he contaminated or something?
No, I think also I couldn't ever get that image out of my head.
Of him being physically with someone else. But then there's also,
and at least there's some kind of restraint with, like, usually when you're really emotionally into someone, you like something physical will eventually happen. So maybe even, like, I understand it's probably emotional affairs are happening with, like, long distance. Why do they choose not to meet, or it just doesn't happen? Why doesn't, if you're gonna have an emotional affair with someone for 3 years, why doesn't it ever turn to something physical?
Sometimes it can't because of geography or the coronavirus right now. This could be restraints on your ability to even meet up. I'll tell you something though about men when they're cheated on, if it is sex and not just emotions. A lot of the guys won't forgive because it's so emasculating. Maybe the other guy was a lot better in bed. Maybe he was a better lover. Maybe the wife actually is now going to put up with me compared to the other guy. Yeah. Maybe he was more attractive, knew her needs better. There was a famous movie with Woody Harrelson. Again, my daughter is so much younger than me. I'm so old.
I know which movie you're talking about.
Which one?
Indecent Proposal.
Yeah, it was fascinating, right? I know. Who was the woman again in Indecent Proposal? It was Demi Moore. Yeah. Demi Moore. So in the movie, Robert Redford's a billionaire, and I'll give you $1 million for one night with your wife, and then they dismiss it out of hand. Then they need the money.
That movie was actually so depressing.
But think about what happened. What Woody Harrelson, there is a very profound line. When he gives his wife the divorce papers, because that one night destroys their whole marriage, he gives the divorce papers. You know what he says to her? Very profound. He says, I'm divorcing you, or you want to divorce me, I'm gonna let it happen. It's not because I think that you have something special with him that you don't have with me. I rather let you do this because I fear that maybe you deserve to do it. Maybe I wasn't a good enough husband. Maybe you had this desire because I wasn't a good enough lover. I wasn't a good enough romantic. And men harbor that fear. So when the woman actually capitalizes on the wife, it validates that fear that I'm a zero. Okay, I want to take questions from anyone. Let me go to Ted.
Oh, this is a good question.
Well, let's go.
Sorry, okay, Ted, yeah.
You want to go? Well, let's just hear someone first. Hey, Ted, how are you?
Want to hear from Ted.
Hello, Rabbi. So I question the whole premise of marriage to begin with, unless it's a religious marriage, because man has two natures, as we know, our godly nature and our animal nature, no question about it. And so if you're not always aware of your animal nature and fight it, you'll succumb to it. There's no question about it. That's why if you ever go
You're saying that every husband and wife who are married, if they're not religious, they're going to have an affair because the animal's going to take over after a while?
No. But when that temptation comes, they have no power to fight it. So I went to a synagogue, and it was a Reform synagogue, which is beautiful. Everything was beautiful. But the girls in front of us, my boys were there, were all wearing miniskirts. Not one kid was able to daven. So if there's
That's why you have a machitza.
so there's no religion. If there's no religion, it's very difficult. I'm not saying it can't be done.
But you don't just mean religious restraint. You're also talking about moral restraint. In other words, let me comment on what you're saying for a moment. When I hosted my TLC show, Shalom in the Home, the very first episode that we aired was of a Latino truck driver in the United States. It may have even been from your state in Pennsylvania. I'm trying to remember. He was an amazing man. He and I really connected over the show. But basically what happened is he was married with 3 girls. His wife kicked him out of the house because he had an affair. And it turned out I helped him understand that his wife was beautiful and loving. So why did he cheat on her? He cheated on her because he saw himself as a truck driver, a failure. And this mistress made him feel like $1 million. What I said to him was, you will only stop having affairs. He wanted to be taken back by his wife, but it'll only not happen again. Kind of what you said, not religious restraint. I said to him, rather, when the pleasure of being a hero to your children and to yourself is even greater than the sexual pleasure you have with your mistress, that's the only immunity you'll ever have from having an affair. In other words, this guy had 3 daughters. I said, what if your daughters married a guy who did this to them? He said, I'd kill him. Okay, I said, but you did this right in front of them as their father. We have to want moral greatness, and moral greatness provides a certain pleasure, which is even greater than illicit sexual pleasure. So you call it religious, I call it like moral greatness. There is a certain restraint that comes from deciding who I want to be as a man, who all of you want to be as a woman. And depending on who you want to be, that's going to determine what gives you pleasure. Like I want to be, hopefully, a strong moral example to my daughter, Chana. By the way, I don't want her to marry someone like me, to be perfectly honest. I hope she marries someone who's lower maintenance and less complicated. Less complicated. Thank you so much. You're supposed to disagree with it, but okay. And less complicated than your father. High maintenance, complicated. So I hope, but I want to be as a father. I want to be. While I don't want to be a role model of the man that she should marry, the type, in other words, I do want to be a role model. Hopefully, a moral example. I'd want to be a moral example of who I am as a husband, so that my daughter can look up to me. And right, Ted? I mean, where'd Ted go? I mean, Ted, you have a daughter. Your daughter Ariana's a great girl, good friend of our families. You want to model moral greatness to your children, right?
Absolutely, yes.
So it's not just religious. It's not just religious. It's moral, and moral is something universal. It transcends just Judaism, Islam, Christianity. You could be an atheist or agnostic, and you still believe in morality. I can get into the debate about whether morality still comes from religion.
Absolutely. You could be Muslim, Jewish, Christian, Catholic, anything. You have to have that religious background to help when temptation does come. Right, Hannah?
Really?
Do you agree with that?
No, not really.
No?
No, I think it definitely comes down to morality and I think Judaism and God makes a very big difference. Like you always talk about the differentiation between moral sin and religious sin. And I think adultery is moral.
Yeah, that's why there's 2 tablets. Yeah. And the second tablet
but I
is
think
all
that,
about
someone that doesn't believe in God or has no religion in their life, I think it could help if you're raised in a certain way and you're, we have this concept of being God-fearing in Judaism, that you sense God above you, so you act accordingly. But I think that you can be a moral person without religion as well.
Okay, we should do that as a debate as well, whether you can be moral without religion. Okay, Ted, stick around. Thanks so much. God bless. Who else has got a question for me? So far, we're only talking about why men cheat. We're going to get into why women cheat as well. I see Carla. Hello, Carla. Where are you calling from?
I've got a question.
Who's that? I don't see it.
Who is that? Go down.
It's me,
See,
Michael.
I'm still learning this technology, and I want to know how do I know that people want to ask a question, so we can unmute you.
I know usually a blue hand thing comes. Is this no? What? First.
Wait,
Oh, there.
who's talking now? Michael?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't see you. We only hear you. Okay, that's fine.
Whatever.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, so basically I've been with my girlfriend for about 6 years. We're engaged. I cheated on her during quarantine, but I only did anal with the girl. Does that still count as cheating?
Okay, clearly.
Yeah, that's cheating. During quarantine now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you cheated, man. Nice guy. Good for
Where
you.
are you calling from?
England.
Yeah, well, that counts.
Are you sure?
Positive.
Because
See ya.
why are you being rude? You're
No,
being a bit sassy.
It's not, is that a serious question?
Well, yes, that's why I asked her.
I'll treat it as a serious question. It is.
Is
Yeah,
anal cheating?
it's a question he asked, and you made it clear that it's cheating. It is cheating.
I don't
Does that answer your question, Michael?
Could you answer it, not her, please?
Okay, you answer.
Well,
I think he already answered.
Yeah. We heard the answer.
I couldn't really hear the answer though because she was talking over everybody.
Well,
Okay,
now I'm
that's-
gonna mute you. So
Okay, it's clear, right?
I can see who wears the trousers in this relationship.
oh my god.
Okay, next. Okay,
Always
anyone else?
gonna get a call like
Anyone else
that.
have a question?
People ask questions on the.
On the what?
Yes, he definitely is being offensive. Yeah, it's a joke. Whatever. Is cheating a reason to get divorced?
Well, we said that. It depends on the relationship. I actually think that when it comes to, I believe that when it comes to divorce, what leads to divorce is usually not sins of commission. It's not the adultery, although that's sometimes unforgivable. It's actually sins of omission. It's love that was not invested into the relationship, so that when a serious break comes, like infidelity and unfaithfulness, what it leads to is a break, and there's no foundation to keep you together. Certainly in the couples that I've counseled where there's been unfaithfulness, if there was no strong, sturdy relationship, there was nothing to fall back on. I don't know who we're hearing right now.
I think it's Ted actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, but if you're saying that it's sins of commission and sins of omission, if the average woman who has an affair is doing it for 3 years, even if she's a fantastic wife, she's been lying for 3 years. That's a long time.
I'm not
That's what I'm
saying,
saying. I don't
no,
think
I'm
it's
not
the
saying,
cheating, it's the lying. That's what.
Okay, so I've counseled couples where there's been unfaithfulness and it's led to divorce. There's no question about it. I remember one woman saying to me that she would never forgive her husband, and she loved him deeply because she said that unfaithfulness changes the nature of the relationship. It alters it and misshapes it so extensively that there can never be trust again. That's still not what happens in the majority of times, however. The majority of times, if the husband's unfaithful, the marriage survives. As I said, statistically, if the woman is unfaithful, the marriage does not survive. A lot of people say this is an example of patriarchy. We judge men and women by different standards. And some people say, no, that's not the reason. The reason is that women get much more emotionally invested in a relationship, right?
Mm.
Anyone else? How do we know if you want to ask a question?
I think the hand is supposed to go up.
What hand?
Usually there's a little blue hand in the corner. Why don't
Is
you
that
just answer
right?
the question? Someone asked if it's possible to love more than one person.
Right, someone just asked, oh, is it possible to love more than one person? I don't think so. Meaning, of course, there's different kinds of love, but romantically and erotically, I think you get focused on one person at a time. That's why I also think that what adultery does is that it leads to a depletion of the marriage itself. In other words, if you're a man and you're channeling your erotic interest, sexual interest away from your wife and away from your marriage to another woman, one of the reasons the marriage dissipates and is destroyed is because it becomes a barren desert. There's no river of affection and love. There's no sex. There's no, or it can be perfunctory, mechanical sex because you're really in love with someone else or erotically attracted to someone else. So I don't think that it's like with the Zoom thing. You might have a lot of people on the screen in front of you, but only one can really speak at a time, right? And the same thing is true with erotic focus.
Mm-hmm.
I like this question. Why were our forefathers allowed to have multiple wives? Would this stop cheating in this day and age? I'm happily married, and one is more than enough. God bless my queen for putting up with me. Okay, good. By the way, it's not really true. It's a common misconception that the Bible allows.
Multiple wives?
Yeah, it's a misconception. When God creates Adam, he only creates Adam and Eve. There's no Adam and Eve and Cynthia, right? There's no multiple wives. When Abraham marries Sarah, he only has one wife. It's Sarah, who later is barren, that tells Abraham, I want you to take my handmaid as a wife. Jacob wants to only marry Rachel. He's tricked into marrying Leah as well. I could go on. Moses is only married to one woman. The only real examples you have in the Bible of polygamy, men with multiple wives, are the kings of Israel. Yeah. King David has 6 wives. Solomon has 1,000. That's a lot. But it's a misconception. If God intended for us to be polygamous or polyamorous, he would not have made the quintessential relationship Adam and Eve, right? Who's knocking? Where? Right there? Oh. Hello, Jack.
Hello.
Jack?
How are you? I'm from the UK, as you can tell. I'm having problems with one of the members in this call currently. Me and Dave Peters are in a relationship together. I do feel like he's I don't know, I just have suspicions he's cheating on me, and he won't talk to me about it, and he just hides his phone from me and stuff. And obviously I know that seems possessive from my half, but I'm just wondering, is it wrong that I do want to see his texts and stuff?
Okay. I'm gonna thank you for the question.
That's a good question.
I believe that husbands and wives, my belief is, should have access to each other.
I mean, hey, it's kind of wrong they're gay.
Hold on a second.
God hates fags.
Oh God. It's like.
Okay. How do I mute that?
I'm muted.
I'm muted. Let me just answer. I don't know. Let me just answer that. I'm a great believer that you don't have secrets in marriage, and husbands and wives should have access to each other's email accounts, not out of suspicion, but because you're supposed to share things. I believe that you should have shared finances. I'm always, counseling couples. Now, that's not true for everyone. Let's say you're married.
Okay, we have to. No. That's not. He's muted. This is some. Okay.
God, that girl is such a fucking cunt.
Oh my God, what is this?
I hope you get hit by.
That was it. Because they can.
That guy. No. I'm gonna kick him out.
You're a fucking.
Get him gone. Not always, but get rid of him.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Oh my God. Sorry about that. Okay.
Disgusting.
Animal. All right. Everyone's muted. I don't know what's going on.
Because they could probably. We're gonna learn this better.
Carla has huge tits.
Oh my God.
Okay.
No, I think there's other people. Something is really.
Hold on.
You have to mute everyone. You just have to mute everyone. I'm trying.
Carla's tits.
Oh my God, shut up. I don't know what to do.
Okay, mate, can you just leave now? Because it's getting a bit inappropriate.
Yeah, yes, please, man.
Dave Peters, shut the fuck.
We're going to fix this and we're going to come back.